Welcome to the Growth Now movement. I'm your host, Justin Shank. I'm an entrepreneur, speaker, and podcaster who years ago decided to go on a journey on how to grow in all areas of my life. What I found out was it's really a matter of focusing on the 4 pillars of life: business, relationships, spirituality, and wellness. And that's what we do here. We explore how to continuously grow in those areas, all while having a ton of fun doing it. I'm really excited you're on this journey with me. Now let's get to this week's episode. This week, we have the return of Chuck Balsamo. This is Chuck's 4th time on the podcast, actually 5th, but we're only going to count this as the 4th because the other one was from one of the summits and I just copied and pasted it. But with that being said, you're going to find out why this guy is somebody who is constantly requested to come back on the show to talk about life, to talk about business, to talk about faith, to talk about all these incredible things that we face in our lives on a daily basis. You're going to find out quickly why Chuck is one of my favorite people. And, just to tell you a little background, if you haven't listened to any of the other episodes that he's been on, he is an extraordinary life expert who guides champs to 3 summits of wellness, success, and impact. In his 20s, Chuck built one of the top real estate teams in the nation. From there, he's built a vast platform of influence and added numerous layers of knowledge and experience in personal development and business. Today, Chuck speaks all over the world to audiences above 100,000 people in stadiums and conferences, including being one of the keynote speakers at Growth Now Movement Live in 2019. He also coaches entrepreneurs, artists, and business professionals earning $100K to multiple millions in annual profits and getting the extraordinary life they want to have. Now, we're going to dive into something that is extremely important in this episode. You guys know I talk about the 4 pillars, which is business, wellness, spirituality, and relationships. If somebody were to ask me what's the most important pillar, I would say relationships because it pours into all the other pillars. And so Chuck and I discussed the importance of high-powered relationships, how to navigate them, how to approach them, and how you can make sure you're surrounded by the top people in the world. So make sure you tune in. Do not miss this episode. But before we get there, I want to let you guys know, if you don't know already, Growth Now Summit Live is finally happening. May 2022 in Lidditz, Pennsylvania, one of the coolest venues in the world, Rock Lidditz. Grab your tickets today. Prices are going up soon. So head over to growthnowsummit.com and join us in person. Let's high five. Let's hug. Let's have an amazing time. We've announced some of the speakers so far, which were already mind-blowing, and it's just going to get better. So grab your tickets now. Prices go up soon. I cannot wait to see you there. growthnowsummit.com. Now, without further ado, let's get to the episode with Chuck Balsamo. Chuck, welcome back for a 4th time onto the Growth Now movement, man. This is incredible.
4 times, man. What a great moment in my life. 4 times in this amazing community. Thanks for having me back again.
Dude, it's funny. I shared out your story and I had like 3 people message me immediately. Like, I love that guy. He's my favorite. And so, my community is going to be excited that you're back and we're going to have an incredible conversation as we always do. But, you look at the lifespan of how many times you've been on the show. Actually, if we really counted it, this is your 5th time on the show because I repurposed something from the virtual event and I threw it onto the podcast, but we didn't record it for the show. So I'm counting this as number 4, but you were episode number 20. Like that's how far back we're going. Zach was still on the show.
Zach.
And we were just beginning and we were making little splashes. Jutbug. Yes, dude, I haven't heard Jutbug in years. But that's the beginning, right? Like that's where it all started. And you were there, man. And I'm just honored to have you back. And you're somebody who my community has latched onto. You're somebody I look up to as a friend and a mentor and somebody who cheers me on from literally from day one, man. So thank you for being that. And I want to talk a little bit about relationships and the power of them, because I think what we've formed over the last 5 years has truly been the epitome of the power of relationships. But let's talk a little bit about that, because I know you've really mastered this art as well, almost accidentally. Like what has been your take on relationships?
Oh man, this is the topic for me. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around just how enormous relationships are. And, whenever you're listening to a podcast, we're only a couple of minutes in right now, and hopefully somebody's listening going, what? My ears are like really catching this right now. Something I want to talk about. You talk about $1 million idea. You talk about $1 million, $1 billion. No, you talk about $1 billion topic. The topic of relationships is not $1 million topic. It's $1 billion topic. And I think you're right. I think that I didn't even know over the last 3 decades how important it was. I think I just did it, and thank God I did, right? Like if I'm 30 years in and I'm just figuring this out, I can't go back and build relationships. I'm now set up. I'm set up for a lifetime. My future is so incredibly bright, just like yours is, because we accidentally understood the value of relationships. And we have been building a pipeline by just investing in people and relationships and friendship. And now we're sitting here in this place where it's like, whoa, that's the real currency. That's the real currency, you know?
Yeah. No, I'm so glad you said that, because, you know, for me as well, and I look at my lineup of friends, you included, and I go, how is this possible? Like, I feel blessed and honored to be surrounded by the people that I do, and you know, the people I get to call friends and reach out to and ask questions and hopefully help them as well. And it happened accidentally. But now as I looked back, I realized it was such an important piece. It became one of the 4 pillars. And as I start to line out this book that I'm writing, I almost want to say it's the most important pillar, because it pours into every other aspect of your life, right? Like it really goes into everything else I talk about. It helps in business. It helps in your health. It helps in your wealth. It helps in all of these different areas. If you surround yourself with the right people. What has been for you? I know you said it's the $1 billion currency. Like, that's the real currency. Yeah. What has been some examples in your life where it's like, wow, I didn't even realize this is the relationship I was forming?
Yeah, I think what a great question, man. You are crushing it as a podcaster. You know, you be on podcasts and you see the real pros, and just that's such a pro follow-up right there. Yeah. When you talk about relationships, I think where I'm at right now in life, it's amazing when let me just say a couple things, and I'll get there. I'll get there. Right. I remember Gary Vee saying years ago, he was like, the only thing you have when you first start out is your hustle. It's the only currency you have. Right. And I didn't even understand that when he said it. I was just like, okay, he's like, that's all you have. You just wake up and you hustle and you hustle. And it's true. Right. And then also you've got, I was thinking about like the quantum leap that I'm experiencing in my life right now. And I think I definitely will mention that to answer your question, because that's what causes people to even want to listen. Right. Like, who is this guy? Like, where is he at right now? Man, I'm about the most average guy you're going to ever meet in life, but the results I'm getting are very above average. They're very uncommon. The wealth I'm experiencing, the blessing that I'm experiencing is disproportionate to the person I am. And it's really cool because there's, you know, definitely you have to invest in your mind. You have to learn when others are playing around too much, right? You have to build the layers of knowledge and experience, and, you know, meaning that you have to expand your resume and expand your options. And so you and I both did that over the years. You know, we would master this skill and master that skill and launch this company and launch that company and learn the levels, and you're continuing. And the more you learn, the more you expand your resume, you expand your options. And then you have to hustle with consistency, right? Even through a couple of burnouts and some lazy phases, but you're a survivor, right? And you maintain that peak performance much longer than others, which is harder to do with each decade that passes. And you got to survive. You got to stay there. And then there's you build this big fat pipeline of relationships. And for me, you know, as I was a coach over the years, you know, I started out working with, you know, startups, solopreneurs, and then all of a sudden, you know, CEOs, and then CEOs of bigger companies and bigger companies and bigger companies. What are you doing? You're learning with each client. You're adding layers. You know, you get off the call and you go, I need to Google a whole pile of terms right now and learn some stuff, right? I'm going to dial one of my mentors, and I'm going to learn from my mentor and add those layers. So you're learning so that you can teach, and you're growing. And each time you hit another level, you have access to people you didn't have access to before. And so So in my life, to give you an example, here getting around to the answer to the question right now. So about 4 years ago, I had this idea, right? I was on Instagram and I thought this guy was posting this company that he was launching, but it wasn't that. And I remember thinking to myself, what an idea. This is unbelievable. And then I went to the next thing and it was like, oh, it's not that at all. But that would be a great idea. So I kind of pocketed that idea, did a mind dump. And then I'm on a coaching call a year later with one of my clients. He has a $200 million company. And he lost a contract and was going to have to lay off like 200 and some people. And he was ready, like, it was one of the like jump out of a window moments. And I'll never forget, I was on the phone with him. It was like an emergency call kind of thing. And I'm in front of a coffee shop in Richmond, Virginia. And I just said, hey, I had this idea. I'm going to give it to you if it can put your guys back to work, right? Operating in abundance. That's one of the best ways to build a relationship. You just believe that you've got so much that you can just keep giving it all away, right? Well, he ended up, great idea, but he renegotiated the contract, kept his guys at work, and then COVID hit. He reaches back out to me and says, how about that idea? He says, I've got PPP money. I need to put my guys to work right now. If you want to execute the business on that, let's form a partnership and I'll make you the CEO. We'll negotiate like massive equity for you, disproportionate. It's yours. It's your company. It's your brainchild. So the abundance I gave him, he turned back around and gave me, right? And now all of a sudden, I'm the guy with the idea. He was the guy with $7 million to say, let's do this. And over the last year, we built this company, Backyard Studio. And I've been downplaying it, haven't talked about it. You can't find any video footage of me. Every once in a while, there's like an Easter egg in my story. I'm about 3 months away from being able to scale this company up. And the market cap on this is billions of dollars. The company cap on this is going to be $1 billion. I mean, it's the biggest quantum leap I could have ever asked for. But when you say to me, how is it going to happen? There's one reason it's going to happen. That's why I say it's the currency of relationships is a currency of billions, not even millions or hundreds of millions. When you get to the highest level, it's going to take a relationship to get there.
Yeah, I love everything you just said there, right? So first of all, operating from a level of abundance. I say all the time, if you want to build the greatest relationships, give without expectation. Give to every single person you come in contact with and don't ever expect anything in return. Yours is like literally the perfect example of I was giving to this person who ended up giving back. It doesn't always happen that way. Obviously, sometimes I might give to you and then all of a sudden the universe says, hey, here you go. There's a gift from somewhere else. But the reality is, if you can form those relationships from a place of, like you said, abundance, of giving first, that's when everything changes. What I find, and I want you to talk to this too, Chuck, what I find is so many people I come in contact with just want something. They want to get on the podcast. They want to speak on my stage. They want my courses for free. They want some free coaching, which, look, if you're down in your luck, I usually help you out wherever I can. But that's not going to go any further than that moment, right? It's not going to go any further than me going, okay, here you go. Let me help you out. So what have you witnessed in your life as far as people coming to you from that place of lack? And what have you seen? What has it done to them and where are they now?
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Justin. I've had the same thing happen over the years. I think anybody that has, authenticity, like real value, anybody that you want to really attach onto, merge with, connect with, collaborate with, is going to see that kind of stuff a mile away, right? And we're just so turned off. I think when you operate in abundance, you can't go for a quick, cheap win. And, it's not even that. I think it's like the reason it worked so well for me is I think I wasn't even looking for any kind of win. I just kind of am such an enthusiast of other people. And I just kind of was like, I'm building my thing. I didn't realize that I was going to actually need these people in my future. I didn't realize that they were going to even, like, what did I even want? I didn't want anything. Yeah. I always just showed up. And I think the key is, I told this guy one time, I was just trying too hard. And I said, man, like, I don't know how to say this because I'm going to probably sound like, this jerk guy, know-it-all kind of guy, like giving advice when it's not requested, but you're trying too hard and you're too needy. And you want to be the least needy person at the table. When you're sitting there like, I got to make a sale, I got to pick up a client. I mean, even in podcasting, people do these interviews at the end, like, hey, Chuck, what do you want from my audience? And hey, Justin, what do you want from my audience? And it's like, it's not even that for me. I don't care if I sell something, if I pick somebody up, I'm just here to add value to this audience. And if I do that well, somehow in the future, it comes back. And I think that, going back to this story, people who operate in scarcity are trying to get a real quick win. And they're probably going to get that win. It's going to feel so unnatural. It's going to feel so forced. It's going to, even inside they can feel it. But the people who just like give and give and give, it is that natural, all of a sudden you're sitting on this pipeline that's so incredibly full. I'll tell you one more thing. One of my friends, and he's a friend of yours too, Doug Morneau. Doug is in this circle with like Ty Lopez and some of those guys doing some investment stuff. Really, really cool, like really cool stuff. And, Ty Lopez just in a part of a group of people that just bought like Radio Shack. And I was understanding that this is like a real low knowledge of what they're doing right now, but they're basically buying the audience, right? They're buying the brand, the lifetime customer value. They don't care about the product. They're going to reinvent the brand. But when you hear Radio Shack, there's a block of 50 million Americans that are 100 million Americans that are ready to buy from that. I just think that you're buying the CRM, right? That's what we do. We buy the CRM. That's what email marketing is, right? Rented email marketing. I'm buying that's what affiliate marketing is. I'm buying into your audience because they're already warm with you. Well, man, when you build the right friendships, that's the most valuable person. Who's the richest person you know? It's the person that's sitting on like this very powerful, long cultivated over a few decades relationships. It's the person that has the most phone numbers, that's had the most FaceTimes with the right people, and they haven't asked for anything probably yet. And, if that's done right, I don't know if I answered your question right. I mean, you were.
No, you did. You did. And it was great. And you're 100% right? Like you really grow and cultivate these relationships over time. And what you realize is over time, they will then benefit you, even if you don't expect, or you don't know, or you don't, whatever. Right. Like, and I think about my live events. The speaker lineup that I haven't announced yet, which I'll slowly leak out here in the next couple of months, is unmatched. Like I've told you, some of the people that are coming to year 2 of my live event. Yeah. I mean, these are keynote people that get paid $50K to go speak on a stage, and they're coming to speak on my stage for free because of the relationship we built. My first event, people like you and Terry and Fabio Viviani and Albie Manzo and all these amazing individuals, Sarah Centrella, to say, wow, like they've done this for me. But it's because over time we've built relationships. I give, you give. This is what happens. This is who we are. And these are the people that we attract. Now, we're talking a lot about giving. But another thing I talk about a lot about is we need to make sure that we fill our cup first, because we can't pour from an empty cup, right? So this is a 2-part question for you. Number 1, what do you do to fill your cup? What are you making sure that you have to give? Because you're a man of massive energy at all the time. Number 2, what is it that you give? I think this is important because I know what you give to people. I think it's important to talk about this because I have a lot of people come to me and we have conversations. They go, well, Justin, I don't have the network you have to give. I don't have anything to give, but you don't need anything to be able to give. Let's talk a little bit about that. So number 1, what do you do to fill your cup to make sure you can give? And number 2, what is it that you give to the individuals to start to build these relationships?
Yeah, I think it is important. We have to be able to fill our own cup so that we can give. We can't run on empty. I thank God for Brendan Burchard. I've learned a lot. I still reference it. I know he's got other material out since then, but in his Habits of High Performers, he talks about your energy, and that a younger person just goes, well, I wake up and have energy. I eat Pop-Tarts and have energy, right? I eat Cinnabons and Pop-Tarts, and I eat whatever I want. I have energy. Well, when you get a little bit older, I'm still very young because I'm part of the superhuman movement now, the superhuman cult, man. I'm going to live to be 180 years old, right?
I'm there with you.
Yeah. Walter Longo says it's about the youthful stage, the youthfulness stage, and then the organ health stage. And you want the youthfulness stage to last as long as you can. I'm going way over 100 summiting mountains. And then I'll go way up into the 120s, 30s, and 40s with organ health. And so I'm going to live a long time. But, at 49 years old, I've got to get my energy. And it's very important. One, I want to give a huge shout out to my wife. She has fed me life from the day we met. My wife has never said, you're a freaking loser bum. She's never said, I'm sick of your dumb, crazy ideas. In the early years, I'd be like, I'm going to make this much money. I'm calculating commissions and everything that I'm a part of. Every time she's like, if anyone can do it, you can. She never stops believing in me. She has endless faith. I'm not even kidding you. She is a saint. She feeds me happiness. She feeds me balance. A lot of people, unfortunately, didn't marry that person. And so you got to make sure that, I'm not saying you got to go like divorce and find somebody like that, but you might have to be a little more intentional about the other friends you have in your life, right? It's a combination. Maybe your spouse isn't providing one part of that, but a friend can, and you cultivate your circle. I ended up with one. That's why I spend so much time disproportionately with my wife over everyone else. It's hard for me to actually have other friendships sometimes because she's just the greatest person I spend my time with. And she invests in me. She feeds me energy. But then it's eating, it's exercise, it's taking care of yourself. It's going to sound crazy. It's my two golden doodles. It's the environment that I've built around my life. It's the whole thing that we could probably talk about another day. I think you do need to create a life that feeds you. You have to be very intentional. Am I happy? We did that happiness thing, overcoming depression, episode 100 or 62.
Yeah. That was huge. Okay,
so, and then also it is about friendship. So when you talk about feeding myself, I didn't understand this early on. I'm a pastor also, right, Justin?
Yeah.
So what happens is in my Christian faith, which I'm very devoted to, in the teachings of Jesus, it's about self-sacrifice. It's about, having compassion on the lowest person in the world. And it's about giving yourself away without expecting to receive anything in return. Well, I didn't understand, like calibrating that in my early years was like, I'm just going to give myself to everyone who asks, and I'm not going to worry about myself in any way whatsoever. Then I would realize, well, God, man, like if I'm not careful, I'm just going to run out of steam. I'm going to crash. If I don't, I have to start to protect my space more. And so I started to do that in the last, decade or so. I've become very intentional about who actually has access to my life and who feeds into me. And then there's a part of me I can give to the rest of the world, but it's like there's some relationships and I'm like, I can't have too many relationships that are pulling from me without turning around and looking and go, who am I getting my strength from? And that's a game changer. And that's something I've really given attention to in the last few years. And actually I could speak to what I look for in those friendships if you want me to, or I can go move on to question 2.
No, I love that. And I'll add that. And we'll get to that in a second. It's so true. And I think one thing that COVID has done, even for me, because I'm very much like you, like I don't spend time with people who suck out my energy. One of the 4 things I do daily is to reach out to somebody to fill my own cup. And they're like, wait, that's you reaching out to check on somebody. That's not your own cup. I go, but it is, because I surround myself with those right people who pour back into me. And so you're feeding that, right? But there are people still in my life who are lifelong friends who, when we do get together, they suck my energy. I'm not going to leave them high and dry because they're good people. But I pick and choose when that time comes, when we get to spend some time together. And I think that that's super key. But I'd love to talk about some of the key points you look at for the people you surround yourself with, because I think that's really important for people to hear.
Well, yeah. I like to look at it like a key card. You check into a hotel. How many cards would you like? 25. Yeah. Okay, sure. We'll give you 2 or maybe 3. If you've got some kids, we'll give you 4 cards. But 25 keys to one room. So the only way we can give you more keys is, we can only have so many key holders in each room. And I think we just go through life, especially if we're like you and I, Justin, we're like, sure, here's my cell phone number. Anyone can call me. And then everyone can call you. And then you go, oh my gosh, at the same time, I can't close my life off because I'm meeting new people. And what if I'm meeting a magical new friend this year? It's not easy protecting your space, but there are certain things we should look for. And I think this is important when you're talking about building the pipeline of relationships that will take you all the way to the highest part of your purpose. Two things, maybe I've shared this to your audience before, but I spend time with people I can learn from, teach, enjoy, or profit with. Is that elitist? No, it's not elitist. Watch. People I can learn from. So if I can learn from you, there's validation for the relationship. People I can teach. So that means I don't need to spend somebody that I'm going to suck something from. It can be an apprentice. It could be somebody that can take something from me, but are you teachable? I'm not going to spend time with somebody where I'm going to just be pouring it out on the ground and it's not going anywhere. That sucks the life out of your soul about as much as anything.
Yeah.
Enjoy, right? Sometimes, like you said, there's some friendships that transcend commonality of purpose. And it's not like we're building businesses together and we want to have a jet together and we want to play golf in some great golf course together. We're old friends from the same town and we just enjoy each other. I respect your life. You respect mine. You're weird and I'm weird and we get something out of each other, right? Or people that I can profit with. And then the other thing is that I'm very careful to take, and I always look at my relationships and go, they're in one of three categories. They're negative, neutral, or positive. And if you're negative, I have become much more aggressive to keep those people out of my life these days. If you're neutral, I've actually become even more mindful about neutral relationships that are not actually moving me forward or backward. I'm really about those people who are positive, people who are forward looking, people who are trying to build something in their life, people who are trying to make a difference in this world. There's only so many hours in the day. And if I do that, well, then it answers your first question. That's what I do to get my energy. What is it? You're the average of the 5 people that you spend all your time with, right?
Yeah.
There it is.
And it's so true. And I mean, there's people are like, they've seen the growth that I've had over the years. And it's because I've always surrounded myself with different groups of people. As I've grown, my circle has grown, right? Like actually in a couple of weeks, there's an episode coming out with Mike Kim, and we talked about like how your relationships are rocket fuel, and there's different places where you can put those individuals, and it's okay to have the people that you're mentoring. You need the mentors, and then the people that are on your level, whether it's for fun or you're building things together, or you're both building separate things, but you're in the same trajectory. I think that that's absolutely huge. It's interesting. One thing I want to touch on, I might put you on the spot here.
Okay.
But Lauren, who my girlfriend's a holistic wellness coach. And so she talks a lot about what are you feeding your body when you're eating, right? And we were sitting at a rest stop on the way back from Pittsburgh, and we kind of looked around and we saw some of the food that people were eating. And we were like, these people literally eat this food every single day, whether it be Burger King or Popeye's chicken or whatever. And I looked at her, I go, how do they not feel like crap? Like if I eat it once, I feel like crap for 3 days, right? By the way, I ate it once and then I have a cold right now. So I imagine it's from eating the crap at the rest stop. So with that being said, how do you and she goes, they're so used to feeling like crap, they don't realize that they feel like crap. So how do you get to the point that you can step back and gauge those relationships you have in your life and say, is it sucking my energy? Is it neutral, or is it pouring into me?
Man, I can't believe you just said that. You know how deep you are right now with that comment. I live in a small town, and it doesn't matter where you live, but we all have there's culture. There's culture in every part of the country. And the culture in this area is, I'm going to get this job. I'm going to work it for 40 years. And, being a visionary, trying to, the idea is, oh, you don't want to show up on the internet too long or too many times. And, oh, you're just making a show of yourself, and like all these limiting beliefs. And what happens is if you spend time, like, how do you, what is that whole thing about? How do you kill a frog or something? You boil something about boiling a frog. You know that statement?
Yeah. I don't know what it is though. I know what you're talking about.
It's like a slow death that doesn't even know it's dying. And I think that culture is like that. If you have the wrong friendship circle, the question you just asked is so crazy, because what is the worst thing about deception or being deceived is not knowing that you're deceived.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
Boom, mind blown, right? Like not knowing you're deceived. Is it possible that somebody might even be listening right now and not even know that the relationships around their life for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years has made them think a certain way? And they may be so entranced in that they're just being boiled alive by it. And they don't realize that one or two new relationships could make a tremendous difference, And you just use the analogy of like food, and you think about what it takes to turn. I've lost 32 pounds this year. I'm heading towards superhuman. It's not just about weight right now. It's about every single thing going into my body. Is about organ health. I'm working on my fitness. My metabolic age is in reverse right now.
I love it.
And so, but man, when you look at your mind, like the mind hardens as we get older. I was on a Clubhouse about adaptivity with I forget Don Hobbs. He's with Success Magazine, and it was a great conversation. And I was thinking about adaptivity, and like we harden over time, and it becomes more difficult to break out. And I think that's why we have to become, and maybe even from this podcast interview, maybe everyone on the call needs to really take a serious look at our life. Are our relationships like eating Hardee's biscuits for breakfast every morning? And as Hardee's is like it's the place where everybody goes and just eats stuff that's going to definitely kill them young. It's worse than smoking cigarettes, and it's like, for me, I think the first step to being able to notice that you're in some kind of atrophy or you're stuck in an environmental determinism is like, it's almost like we're talking and it's like, are you out there? Can you hear me? And it's like the podcast is trying to get in, and you don't realize that like you're that kind of person that you and your friends just talk limiting beliefs to each other, echoing off of one another, sharing your memes and retweeting everything. And you're negative and like you're caught up in this real low level of thinking. And one of the ways you can change that is to start to pay attention to, and let me say one more thing. When you are building your relationships, if you want to go up in life, a lot of times it's going to mean that you're going to need to spend time with people who are going the direction you want to go. And, I go on to Clubhouse and I'm meeting all these new people. I don't know, Jamie McFadden, right? Is she one of yours? Like, have you had her on the show?
She's through Samantha Joy, right? She hasn't been on the show, but I've been in Clubhouse rooms with her. Yeah.
Samantha's another one. Like I got into that circle, Justin, and I'm thinking to myself, champion. I'm like, where do I have room for all these people in my life right now? And you trying to figure out who in the world you talk to, what interviews that you do. And I think the neat thing is that if you're looking for it, there's so many champions within reach. You follow the path of yes, you make room, you use some kind of criteria, like I was talking about, whatever somebody's might be. And then you just try to make more room in your life for those kinds of people. And then your life trajectory changes.
Yeah. Dude, I love that. And so, I mean, a great way to highlight that, you're like, we're screaming out to the internet saying, are you out there? If you got uncomfortable when I asked that question, we're talking to you. That feeling, that pit in your stomach, that, oh no, I don't want to lose my friends. I don't want to hurt their feelings. That means your relationships aren't where they need to be. And I'm not trying to be mean about it, but here's the reality. When you do what Chuck just said, follow the path of yes. Get in the right rooms, even Clubhouse. I've connected with so many people in Clubhouse, and I'm barely on it. And I've connected with so many people in Clubhouse that are willing to be in my space and really help take everything I'm building to the next level, and I'm helping them take their stuff to the next level. And it's amazing. But what ends up happening is, I think a lot of times the fear of losing those people or hurting those people gets in the way of leveling up into the right relationships. But what I realized was, when you say yes to the right relationships, those relationships take care of themselves. It just happens over time. They dissipate, they disappear. I mean, have you experienced the same thing? Because I know you've experienced so much growth. If they want to go back to episode 20 of this podcast and listen to your origin story, they can. I mean, your growth has been amazing. Did you realize those people just fall off, even in a small town?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, man. And I'm a feeler, not a thinker, right? I forget which test determines that, but I'm a deep feeler. So if somebody says to me, "Wow, Chuck, you just think you're better than me," oh my God, I'll lose 3 nights sleep over that. Like, last thing I ever want somebody to think is, "Oh, he thinks he's somebody now," And so on the one hand, I want to always be so humble with people, and I never want to think, "Oh, I'm better than another human being," because it's not about that. I mean, we want to make ourselves available to everyone, and people are at different phases of life. And, but I do know that, yes, I'm very conscious of that. And I think that I haven't figured it all out. I think that, fortunately, when you set yourself, it has to happen at the same time. You set yourself in a new trajectory, and then you have access to people that you didn't have access to on the last level. And you have to navigate in and out of some relationships simultaneous with that. Because I think your relationships are either going to pull you up or bring you back down, right? There's no way. That's why negative, neutral, positive is so important. Because, and right now in my life, I mean, I've got a combination of some relationships I've had for a lot of years, and they're real life-giving. And then I have some new relationships that are really pulling me up. And then I'm pulling some other people up with me as I'm going up, right? You can't pull everybody up though, And I think it's, you develop this instinct for it. Like, I'm having to go too far to pull this one up right now. Somehow I've got to find a way to just let go. Oh, it is. Yeah, Justin, for people, if you're a thinker, it doesn't matter. You just apply logic. You go, "Oh man, I'm just going up," and you're almost a psychopath. I joke with my wife, she's a thinker and I'm a feeler. And I'm like, wow, psychopaths are thinkers, it's everything operates in logic, But yeah, it does hurt.
Emily's not a psychopath.
No. Yeah. My wife's not a psychopath. She doesn't feel near as much as me. And it makes it easier for her to coach me in feeling moments. I would say this, Justin, when COVID first hit, I started saying to all of my clients, I started saying, "Hey, the world is changing right now. And what happened in the pandemic, and we see it now, is you got a lot of people that I said in the beginning, a lot of people are not going to make it. They don't have the mental toughness for what we're about to face. When this is all said and done, this is very positive, but it's also very scary. The demand for great people is going to go through the roof. So if you just survive and you still got that smile at the end of all of this, you're going to have no problem doing well and having an amazing future and making a giant difference. I think that there is, even on Clubhouse, you go to Clubhouse, like all these positive people, all these entrepreneurs, and you say to yourself, "My God, they're everywhere." Not really. When you look at the total population of the world, how many people are waking up every day and doing a miracle morning? And, in an Achievers Club, I mean, yeah, so there's a couple of hundred people on there, a couple of thousand people. I mean, that is 0.0000007% of the population. Like, we need to find each other. We need to connect with each other, right? That's why I love this community that you've built, Justin. You've built this amazing community. I mean, even me coming back now after all these episodes, I'm like, my God, man, he hangs out with like real champions now, man. Justin Wren, what? Can you please help me become friends with him? I want to go to Africa. I mean, him and I both go to Africa and do compassion work.
Yeah.
I want him to body slam me or something, man, for charity.
Dude, he's almost ready to get back into the octagon. This is the last time you want him to body slam you. Like, he's getting in octagon shape, man. It's absolutely insane. But here's the thing, when you talk about How do you navigate this? How do you negotiate it, et cetera? I think sometimes overthinking it gets you in trouble, right? If you're a thinker, try and become a feeler. Look, I connect with, on average, 40 plus elite human beings every single year because of this podcast. 40 plus. I say that because there's repeats like you, and sometimes I do solo episodes instead of interviews like I did this week, but 40 plus elite people a year, all with the intention of how can I bring value to them in some way, shape, or form. And that's before I meet with anybody who reaches out to me, who wants to meet with me. Like I was supposed to meet with a woman today. We had to reschedule, but like for over coffee, I was like, wait, people still meet in person? I'm like, okay, I'll meet you in person. This is extreme. But the idea is I do that. Right. And then what happens is I keep the relationships with the people who are on my wavelength from a feeling standpoint, right? We're all energy at the end of the day. We're all vibrating in some way, shape, or form.
Sure.
And so the relationships that form versus just the interview happening and I never talk to the people again are the people that are on my wavelength. So that's going to happen organically. Natural. But you have to make sure you're vibrating on that wavelength that you want to attract.
Man, buddy, that is gold right there. My God, that is so good. Yeah. I told a guy one time, here's my thing. I don't know. In my mind, I think there's an imaginary line of give and take in a relationship. If I have to go, I'll go over that line at times to establish a relationship or to maintenance a relationship. But if I have to go over that line too much for too long, it starts to become not life-giving, right? There's not enough give and take and there's no synergy. It starts to become antagonistic. And I don't know. It's not necessarily something that like I necessarily logically think through, but I do feel it, Justin. And I mean, how did we become friends? It just was so natural, right?
It was super natural. Easy. And it's funny. You look at kind of the trajectory of our friendship, right? Going from you reaching out on Twitter and being a cheerleader, which was, one of the first ones ever. And it was amazing. And then Zach and I came and visited you, surprised you in your hometown. And so that was a 4.5 hour drive that we took to come surprise you, but then spend some time and be able to connect. And then you came back on the show and then you spoke at my event, and you come back on the show. I'm honored that you come back on the show whenever I say, hey man, come back on the show. And I know that you're going to be on more, but it's really that idea of like, I don't expect anything from you. You don't expect anything from me. And we just enjoy each other's company. At the end of the day, we're both going to win because of that. You know what I mean?
And I love where this conversation's going. I hope you do too. Like for me, this is a goosebump conversation because everyone's trying to figure this out right now. And some people are so, like you just said, don't overthink it. Some people are so nervous, like, I just want that person from Clubhouse. And then I went to Instagram and I sent them a message and I tried to hype them up and I'm hoping they're going to say, and they didn't reply. It's 3 days later. Oh man, they must be, and it's like, oh my God, give it a break. Like just reach out and then just let it naturally happen. And here's the neat thing. I think there are enough positive people in this world that you don't really need to connect with that person you think you need to connect with. You just need to connect with someone like that. And you just follow the path of yes. It's improvising. That professor at Harvard does that book. It's an improvising book. I forgot what it's called, but she just basically says you have to learn to follow the path of yes. It's different than a structured presentation where you know the end and all the points. Train yourself to follow the path of yes. And it's a scary place to live, but you follow the path of yes. And you enter into relationships, and the ones that stick, you're going to end up one day where you've got, and then it's a game of concentration. Let me tell you one more thing. This is so cool. You're going to love this. So my one partner on Backyard Studio, he just says, man, my bandwidth is really thin right now. A lot of the money that we wanted to use on this venture, I'm having to throw into the company right now. We're navigating as far as COVID is concerned. And I'm thinking, oh man, what is going to happen? Well, I get discouraged for a day or two. And then he's just real generous. He just says, hey, listen, man, I'll scale back, my equity. Let's take on some capital. Let's open it up to some people. And he said, and he says, this talk about abundance. He goes, you can script me out of it completely if you want to. I'm like, no, I would never want to do that. I wouldn't even be doing this if it wasn't for you. But then I'm sharing with someone else I've been in a relationship with for 30 years in business. And I've built an intentional relationship with a very close friend who owns multiple companies now. And he just says, why didn't you ask us? I said, well, I didn't even know you were interested. Yeah, we're interested. I fly to Salt Lake City, meet with his partner. And tomorrow, we're probably going to digitally shake hands. And they're going to become new partners in the company and release massive capital into the venture. Probably will get us past Series A all the way to maybe B or C level, and get us to the hundreds of millions level. I mean, it's just incredible. Again, relationships.
That's it.
Relationships. And here I am thinking, I'm building a coaching company. I'm going to build digital courses, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to speak in here and do this. And what I didn't realize was the biggest thing that I was doing wasn't having the knowledge in marketing or the knowledge in how to build a company, the knowledge in, all the different layers. It was the people. So I would say this, and then anything else you want to add to it. Started telling my audience at the beginning of COVID, you got to find the other people who are going to survive with you. Because when this is over with and in the middle of it, I start saying to people, you got to start asking the question, call up your contemporaries, those survivors, those powerful influencers that are doing what you asked the question, Justin. They are mastering their own energy. They are in their prime. Everyone else is being worn down, but for some reason they're getting stronger. I'm not saying that I didn't have moments of burnout in the last year, but somehow like they're getting stronger and stronger. Find those people, sit down with them and ask the question, hey man, you're doing a great thing. I'm doing a great thing. We're contemporaries, or we're one business over. How can 1 + 1 = 2 or more with us? It's the synergy question. And what happens is you start to and this is what I'm learning on scaling something up. Somebody goes, well, why would you need so much money to build your company? Well, because when you hit a certain level, if you don't realize like the marketing, you can only throttle so much. And then if you have to throttle because you can't afford to build 1,000 units a month, well, now you're in big trouble. And there's a certain time frame that you have to get this off the ground, right? And so, well, what happens is your life and yours, mine, Justin, there comes a moment where we can quantum leap, but we cannot quantum leap without other people. There's a lot of we can incrementally grow as much as we want by learning and by hustling, but quantum leaps require a key relationship that must be leaned into. And it's going to require having conversations. And you've done it. I've seen you do it over a period of time where you've connected with people that are similar to you, and you guys have built out masterminds and different things that you've done. And I think that's just the beginning. When I look at you, Justin, I was going to say this earlier. If I want to buy a company, I want the lifetime customer value. If you've got 100 million customers, the value is going to be really big. You got 1,000, you got 2,000, whatever it's going to be. Justin, if relationships are a currency and you've built a community like you have with Growth Now, and you have relationship with the superstar, platform speakers, the movement makers, and all of these rising champions in your community, what are you worth? What are you worth? You're worth the value. If somebody wants to buy Justin Schenk, what is Justin Schenk worth right now? You are worth hundreds of millions of dollars because of all of the possibilities that exist in your relationships right now. And the next couple of years, who knows? And that's what it is with me. Now, all of a sudden, so then backyard studio, and then what does that do? That opens up other opportunities. And I'm investing in this company, investing in that company. And it's like, it never ends. And when the quantum leap starts, it's through relationships and that's why, watch this. Highlights. People go, I don't understand the game of golf. Some of the biggest contracts ever written, company mergers and acquisitions, ever made took place on a 4-hour golf game. Well, I don't have 4 hours to play a game of golf. No, man, it's about getting with a human being and spending time with them. At the end of it, one says to the other, so what do we need to do to move this forward? Well, we need $100 million. Okay. We'll wire it. We'll wire it to you next week. You know, our attorneys will connect. Let's shake hands. Boom. And the deal is done. And that's what life is about. We got to get in front of human beings and we have to dream with each other. And that's where I'm at right now.
That's so huge, man. And so many wonderful things were said during this conversation. And, you know, you talk about connect with the people who at the end of this COVID thing are going to be rising instead of sinking. In my world, in the self-development world, in the thought leader world, there's a lot of people who have gone silent during this time. They've disappeared, and you can go do the research, find it. They've all disappeared, and a lot of them have messed up. And the reality is because I believe it's because they didn't form genuine relationships. They only formed relationships that would serve them. They only would surround themselves with people that could give them something. They'd suck them dry and they'd move on to the next one. That's not the game we're playing. The game we're playing is how can we create a relationship from a place of giving, period. Done. No more conversation after that. What happens naturally when you do that is the wins, is the things. And those are the people that are going to come out on top of any pandemic, of any shutdown, of any terrible thing in your life that could possibly happen. Those are the people that are going to rise, man. And that's why I loved this conversation. I always, as always, appreciate you coming on. Let's not wait a couple more 100 episodes for the next time. We'll do it a little bit sooner. But Chuck, man, how do people get a hold of you? Where do they find you? What's all the good stuff?
Yeah, it's real easy. Chuck Balsamo on all social networks, you know, at Chuck Balsamo. And then chuckbalsamo.com, my website. There's a little information about me on there. I think I got a link tree on my Instagram. I think I finally did one of those link trees. So you can, I've got our podcast on there, links to our podcast and some stuff on there. But yeah. And then, you know, Backyard Studio, we already have 3 orders and we're not even ready to distribute yet. So I'm trying not to play that up too much right now, but just stay tuned, man. By the fall, we're going to have something unbelievable to release to the world. I mean,
I've seen videos of what you guys are working on, guys. Stay tuned because it's something that, whether you're a podcaster, an entrepreneur, a writer, somebody who needs to get away from the kids, whatever the case may be, stay tuned because it's going to be game changing for your productivity. But Chuck, thank you so much, man. This conversation has been life changing as always. Thank you. And I appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.